February 14, 1943. Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. The wind howls through the mountain gap like a living thing, carrying sand, engine smoke, and the distant crack of artillery. Somewhere below the ridgeline, German Panzer engines idle. Low, confident, mechanical beasts waiting for the order to move. Private John Red Haskins, 19 years old, Iowa farm boy turned U.S. infantryman, presses his cheek into the cold dirt. His gloved hands tremble, not from fear alone, but from the unfamiliar weight resting across his knees. A long steel tube. A wire trigger. A crude sight welded on top. The M1 Bazooka. Around him, men whisper. Jesus, Red, you really gonna shoot a tank with that thing? Haskins doesn't answer. He swallows. His mouth tastes like dust and copper. He's been told the rocket can punch through armor, but only if you're close. Too close. 50 yards. Sometimes less. Down the slope, a Panzer III lurches forward, its tracks biting into gravel. Another follows. Then another. German steel, gray and angular, advancing like it owns the world, because up to now it mostly has. Not far behind the German lines, Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Vogler watches through binoculars, unimpressed. Americans, he mutters to his adjutant, a hint of amusement in his voice. They bring rifles to fight armor, childish optimism. Someone mentions rumors, some kind of American shoulder-fired rocket. Vogler laughs softly. A firework, he says. Perhaps they will frighten us with noise. The German officer has reason to be confident. For 3 years, Panzer crews have learned one truth: infantry fears tanks. Rifle fire pings uselessly. Grenades bounce. Anti-tank guns are slow, obvious, hunted down. Tanks dominate. Men scatter. That is how war works. The 1st Panzer crests the lower slope. Its commander scans ahead, hatch open, field glasses resting on his chest. He sees American infantry pulling back, scrambling between rocks and scrub. No heavy guns. No mines. Advance, he orders calmly. The tank turns its side slightly as it adjusts course. That is when Haskins hears his squad leader hiss. Now, side armor, aim low. Haskins rolls onto one knee. The bazooka feels awkward, front heavy, unbalanced. He flicks the safety, just like they drilled him back in Algeria. His loader snaps the rocket into the rear of the tube, then slaps his shoulder. Backblast clear. The words barely register. The Panzer fills his vision. Too close. Way too close. He can see mud on the road wheels. Scratches in the paint. A Balkan cruise half covered in dust. For a heartbeat, the world goes silent. Then whoosh. The rocket leaves the tube with a violent cough of flame and smoke, blasting sand and debris behind Haskins like a shotgun. The projectile streaks forward, spinning, wobbling, and slams into the Panzer's right side, just above the track. There is no explosion the way movies imagine it. Instead, there is a violent flash, white-hot, brief, and a shrieking metallic scream like steel tearing itself apart. Inside the tank, molten copper and steel spray through the crew compartment in a razor storm. The commander doesn't even have time to scream. The Panzer grinds to a halt, smoke pouring from its side. Flames lick out through vision slits. A hatch bursts open and a German crewman stumbles out, uniform already burning, collapsing into the dirt. The 2nd Panzer brakes hard. The 3rd slews sideways. Confusion ripples through the column. What hit us? Someone shouts over the radio. Anti-tank gun. No gun report. Where did it come from? Another rocket flies. This one hits lower, tearing into the thin armor above the suspension. The shaped charge does its work mercilessly, focusing explosive force into a narrow jet that doesn't blast armor so much as pierce it, liquefying steel in its path. A tank that survived artillery shrugs now burns, because a single infantryman pulled a trigger. Up on the ridge, Haskins stares, stunned. He smells burned oil and something worse. His loader is shouting, laughing half-mad. It worked. Red, it damn well worked. But there's no time to celebrate. Machine gun fire rakes the slope. German infantry fan out, returning fire, shouting orders. A Panzer turret swings toward the ridge, its main gun lowering. The Germans are learning. Fast. Behind the lines, Oberleutnant Vogler lowers his binoculars slowly. "What was that?" he asks, no humor left in his voice. A runner arrives, breathless. "Herr Oberleutnant, one tank destroyed, another burning. Infantry reports handheld rocket weapons from the flank." Vogler feels a chill that has nothing to do with the wind. Handheld. Rocket. He looks back toward the pass, where black smoke coils into the sky from a Panzer that should have been invincible. "Thin side armor," he murmurs, the words tasting wrong. For the first time since the campaign began, a thought intrudes, quiet, unwelcome, but undeniable. The infantry are no longer helpless. And if that is true, the battlefield has just changed. July 10th, 1943. Near Gela, Sicily. Dawn breaks over the Mediterranean with deceptive calm. Waves slap softly against the beach, gulls cry overhead, and then the soundscape shatters as engines roar inland. German Panzer grenadiers move cautiously through olive groves, supporting a pair of Panzer IV Aus. G tanks rolling toward the American beachhead. Lieutenant Ernst Weber, tank commander, stands half-exposed in his hatch. Sicily is supposed to be different. Open terrain. Clear lines of sight. The Americans, he's been told, are brave, but green. "Infantry ahead," comes the report. "Light weapons only." Weber nods. "Then we advance." The Panzer turns slightly to negotiate a stone wall, presenting its flank for just a second. That second is enough. From behind a low terrace wall, Corporal Miguel Alvarez, 1st Infantry Division, exhales and squeezes the trigger. The bazooka bucks, backblast slamming heat against his face. The rocket hits squarely, right where the side armor meets the engine compartment. The impact doesn't knock the tank back. It opens it. Inside Weber's Panzer, the shaped charge jet slices through steel like a blowtorch, igniting fuel vapor and spraying molten fragments across the fighting compartment. The radio erupts in static. The engine screams, then dies. Weber drops back inside, choking on smoke. "Fire," someone yells. "We're on fire." The tank lurches to a stop, black smoke billowing upward in a thick column that can be seen from the beach. American infantry cheer, not loudly, not for long, but with the stunned disbelief of men watching a myth collapse. By midday, reports stack up across the front. Tanks disabled by infantry rockets. Side armor penetrated. Close-range ambushes. German officers gather around maps and field phones, voices tight, clipped. "These are not anti-tank guns," one major insists. "Too mobile." "But too effective to ignore," another replies. Captured American equipment begins appearing behind the lines. Long tubes. Rockets with copper-lined warheads. Instruction manuals printed in plain English. The word spreads quickly through the Panzer arm. Bazooka. At first, there is denial. They must be lucky shots. Only at very close range. Front armor still holds. All true. And all beside the point. Because war is not fought from the front alone. By September, in southern Italy, German tank crews are changing how they move. Hatches stay closed longer. Infantry screens thicken. Tanks hug open ground, avoiding villages, stone walls, and tree lines, the natural hunting grounds of bazooka teams. But caution has a cost. Every pause slows the advance. Every detour burns fuel. Every infantry screen pulls men from somewhere else. In the hills near Salerno, Feldwebel Otto Kruger briefs his crew before moving out. "Listen carefully," he says, tapping the side of the turret. "This armor is not invincible. Do not expose it. Do not linger. And for God's sake, watch the flanks." The gunner nods. The driver swallows. They roll forward anyway. Because orders are orders. An American bazooka team waits in a vineyard, leaves brushing their helmets. The gunner, Sergeant Frank Delaney, has already knocked out one tank today. His ears still ring. His hands still shake. He knows the rules now. Let it pass. Aim for the side. Make it count. The Panzer comes through the vines, crushing posts, tracks clanking rhythmically. It never sees Delaney. It never hears the rocket over its own engine noise. The hit is devastating. Armor doesn't just fail. It melts, warping inward as superheated metal floods the interior. Ammunition cooks off seconds later, blowing the turret hatch skyward. The vineyard catches fire. Kruger's crew never escapes. That night, a German regimental commander writes in his diary by candlelight. The American infantry has acquired a weapon that changes everything. Our tanks no longer dominate the battlefield alone. Steel fears men again. He underlines the sentence twice. Across the lines, American soldiers pass bazookas hand to hand like talismans. Confidence spreads, not recklessness but something steadier. The knowledge that when a tank comes, you don't have to run. You can fight. Back in Germany, technical officers study battlefield reports with mounting concern. Diagrams of penetrations, measurements of armor thickness, calculations scribbled in pencil. One conclusion becomes unavoidable. Side and rear armor, designed to save weight to favor speed, has become a fatal compromise. Countermeasures are proposed. Shoes and skirts, heavier plating, infantry cooperation. But none of it can fully erase the new reality. A single soldier, carrying a weapon he can fire from the shoulder, can kill a tank. And once that idea takes hold, it cannot be unlearned. November 22, 1943. Near Zhytomyr, Eastern Front. Snow falls in slow, heavy flakes, muffling sound and shrinking the world to shades of gray. A column of German armor inches forward along a frozen road, Panzer IVs and a single Panther Aus. Their hulls now wearing something new. Thin steel plates hang from brackets along the sides. Scherzen. Hauptmann Rudolf Meissner, battalion commander, eyes them with skepticism. They rattle as the tanks move, clanking softly in the cold. Tin skirts, one driver had joked. No one laughed. These plates are not meant to stop a shell. They are meant to disrupt a shaped charge, to force the bazooka's jet to form too early, to lose focus before reaching the real armor beneath. In theory. In practice, no one is sure. Meissner's radio crackles. Infantry screen moving ahead, woods on the right. Keep them close, he replies. Very close. The lesson has been learned the hard way. Tanks without infantry are blind. And in close terrain, blindness is death. As the column enters the tree line, visibility collapses. Snow-laden branches scrape against turrets. Engines echo strangely in the forest, making distance impossible to judge. Somewhere ahead, an American patrol has been watching for hours. Private Earl Simmons, 2nd Armored Division, adjusts his grip on the bazooka. The cold bites through his gloves. He has one rocket left. The tank passes him first, too far, front armor thick and sloped. He lets it go. Then the second. Then the Panther. He feels his pulse in his throat. The Panther's side looms through the trees, massive, intimidating, even with the skirts. Simmons waits until the last possible second. When he fires, the rocket strikes the Schuezen with a sharp metallic crack. For a split second, nothing happens. Then the skirt plate tears free, spinning away into the snow. The jet punches through the hull behind it anyway. Inside the Panther, the effect is catastrophic. The crew never sees the American. They only feel heat, blinding, suffocating, followed by darkness. The tank slews sideways, tracks locking. Smoke gushes from every seam. Meissner slams his fist against the turret wall. So much for theory, he mutters. By winter, German reports are brutally honest. Shoe is in help, but they are not a shield. At close range, especially against side and rear armor, the bazooka still kills. So the doctrine shifts again. Tanks are ordered to avoid forests, villages, and hedgerows whenever possible. Infantry patrol aggressively. Any suspected ambush point is hosed down with machine gun fire before tanks approach. This keeps tanks alive. It also slows everything else. Meanwhile, the Americans refine their weapon. The M1A1 bazooka appears, simpler, more reliable. Training improves. Crews learn angles, distances, weak points. Veterans teach replacements how to breathe, how to wait, how not to flinch when a 50-ton machine is bearing down on you. In Italy, Sergeant Delaney demonstrates to a group of new men, tapping a chalk diagram on a wall. Don't aim at the turret face, that's a waste. You want here engine deck or here side hull and never fire alone. You miss, you die. No one argues. They've seen the burned-out tanks along the roads. German officers take notice of something else. Morale. Panzer crews still fight hard. Still trust their machines. But the old swagger is gone. Every hedgerow is a threat. Every ruined house a potential coffin. Lieutenant Weber, one of the few survivors from Sicily, writes home from a hospital in Munich. The Americans have found a way to reach inside the tank, not with shells, but with men. It is a terrible thing to know you can be killed by someone you never see. By early 1944, the balance has shifted again. Tanks remain powerful, essential, deadly, but they are no longer untouchable. The bazooka has forced the Panzer arm to adapt, to slow, to fear the ground it once dominated. And the men carrying those long steel tubes now understand something vital. They are not bait. They are hunters. And soon, in the hedgerows of France, that lesson will be tested on a scale no one has yet imagined. June 14, 1944. Near Saint-Eloi, Normandy, France. Rain drips steadily from thick hedgerows, pattering onto steel helmets and damp earth. The air smells of crushed leaves, cordite, and diesel fuel. Somewhere beyond the green walls, engines growl, low, predatory. The blockage is a nightmare for tanks. High earthen banks. Sunken lanes. Vegetation so dense it swallows sound and sight. For infantry, it is cover. For armor, it is a cage. Staff Sergeant William Bill Turner, 29th Infantry Division, crouches in a narrow gap hacked through the hedgerow with explosives. His bazooka rests across his forearms, the tube smeared with mud and rain. He hears the tank before he sees it. A Panzer IV, advancing cautiously down the lane, its commander buttoned up tight. No exposed heads now. No confidence. The Germans have learned what Normandy means. Turner leans close to his loader. "Wait," he whispers. "Let it commit." The ground vibrates. Leaves shake. The tank's side armor passes within 30 yards, close enough that Turner can hear the clank of track links grinding against stone. Too close to miss. Inside the Panzer, unteroffizier Hans Richter grips the controls, sweat running down his spine despite the cool air. The radio crackles with warnings from other units. Infantry reports rocket teams in the hedges. Advance slow. Watch your flanks. Richter hates this country. You cannot see the enemy. You cannot maneuver. You can only crawl forward and hope. The tank noses ahead. Then the world explodes. Turner fires. The rocket punches into the Panzer's side hull, just below the turret ring. The shaped charge jet burns through armor and into the fighting compartment, instantly igniting oil mist and ammunition fumes. Inside, Richter feels a white-hot hammer strike his chest. The driver slumps forward. The radio goes dead mid-sentence. The tank rolls another 3 meters before stalling, smoke pouring out like a signal flare. Turner is already moving. He knows the rules now. Fire and relocate. The loader slaps a fresh rocket into the tube as machine gun fire chews into the hedge they just left. Another Bazooka team fires from the opposite side of the lane. A second Panzer, caught trying to reverse, takes a hit in the rear. Flames roar out of the engine deck. The lane becomes a killing ground. German infantry rush forward, firing blindly into the hedges. Grenades explode, showering dirt and leaves. But the Bazooka teams are ghosts, trained now, disciplined, vanishing through pre-cut gaps and communication trenches. By noon, the road is blocked by burning hulks. A German company commander reports in grim terms. Advance halted, heavy losses to infantry-carried rockets, terrain unsuitable for armor. The message is repeated across Normandy, again and again. By late June, German tactics are defensive, tanks held back, used as mobile strongpoints rather than breakthrough weapons. The old doctrine of armored spearheads has shattered against hedgerows and men with bazookas. American units adapt just as quickly. Bazooka teams are embedded everywhere. Two-man crews. Overlapping fields of fire. Infantry squads coordinate movement around tank kill zones, the way they once planned machine gun ambushes. The weapon is no longer a novelty. It is doctrine. Turner sits that evening behind the lines, hands still shaking as he cleans the tube. He stares at the blackened muzzle and thinks of the man inside the tank, the one he never saw. He doesn't feel triumph. He feels relief. Because today, the tank didn't win. In a German headquarters near Keene, a staff officer pins a new notice to the wall. All tank crews, avoid close terrain without infantry support. American rocket weapons effective at short range. Someone has underlined effective twice. The laughter is gone now. What remains is adaptation, fear, and the growing realization that the age of the untouchable Panzer has ended. Not because of bigger guns, but because of a man willing to stand his ground with a tube on his shoulder. And the war is not finished yet. December 17, 1944. Near Bastogne, Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Snow blankets the forest in suffocating silence. Trees stand like frozen sentries, their branches heavy, unmoving. The cold is so intense it turns breath into fog and metal into something brittle, untrustworthy. A German armored column inches forward along a narrow forest road. Panthers and Panzer IVs, engines throttled low, infantry hugging close to the hulls. This offensive is supposed to restore momentum. Surprise. Shock. Speed. But surprise cuts both ways. Lieutenant James Callahan, 101st Airborne, lies buried in snow behind a fallen log, his bazooka wrapped in burlap to keep the metal from freezing to his skin. He hasn't slept in 2 days. His fingers are numb. His ears ring constantly from artillery. Ahead, a Panther moves past him at walking speed. Not charging. Creeping. Inside the tank, Oberfeldwebel Kurt Merler feels every second stretch unbearably long. His orders are clear. Protect the infantry, keep moving, avoid exposing the sides. But the forest makes that impossible. Trees force turns. Turns expose flanks. And flanks are where men die. Mahler's gunner whispers, "I don't like this." Neither does Mahler. Callahan waits until the Panther's rear quarter slides into view, engine deck visible, exhaust steaming in the cold air. He lines up the crude sights, heart hammering so hard he fears it will give him away. He fires. The rocket streaks forward and strikes the engine housing. The shaped charge burns through steel and into the heart of the tank. Flames burst from the vents, instantly turning the rear compartment into an inferno. Inside, the engine screams, then seizes. Fire, fire. Merler shouts. The crew bails out into knee-deep snow, uniforms already smoking. American rifle fire cuts them down before they take 10 steps. The Panther blocks the road completely. The column halts. Within minutes, more rockets slam home. One hits a Panzer IV's side skirt, ripping it free before punching through the armor behind it. Another strikes a track, immobilizing the tank and turning it into a stationary target. The forest echoes with screams, engines dying, and the flat crack of bazooka launches. German infantry fire wildly into the trees, but the Americans are invisible, moving through foxholes, trenches, and shell craters dug into the frozen ground days earlier. This is not panic. This is practiced killing. By nightfall, the road is choked with wrecks. A German battalion commander radios higher headquarters with shaking hands. Armored advance impossible, infantry rockets everywhere, forest terrain favors enemy completely. In Berlin, such messages pile up by the hundreds. For the Panzer arm, the psychological damage is as severe as the physical. Tank crews now flinch at shadows. Engines are revved unnecessarily, just to drown out imagined footsteps. Turret commanders refuse to expose themselves, trading visibility for safety. The tank, once a symbol of dominance, has become a coffin that might ignite at any moment. Veteran crews still fight, but they fight carefully. And careful is not how Blitzkrieg was meant to work. Callahan sits beside his empty launcher as night falls, staring at the burning hulk of the Panther. The heat melts snow around it, sending steam into the air like breath from a dying animal. He feels no pride, only exhaustion. But he understands something now, something German officers once laughed at. A tank is only powerful if men believe it is. And belief has just burned away. March 7, 1945. Near Remagen, Germany. The Rhine looms wide and gray under a low, oppressive sky. Smoke hangs over the riverbanks where artillery has been firing for days without pause. German defenses are collapsing in layers, fallback lines that barely exist on paper, let alone on the ground. A battered Panzer IV creeps through the outskirts of a ruined village, bricks crunching beneath its tracks. The tank bears scars now, welded-on armor patches, missing shoes and plates, soot-blackened exhausts. It looks tired, old. Inside, Lieutenant Friedrich Keller grips the periscope handles, knuckles white. This is German soil, he tells his crew, more for himself than for them. We hold here. No one answers. They all know what waits in the rubble. Across the street, behind the remains of a collapsed bakery, Private First Class Leonard Brooks, 3rd Armored Division, steadies his bazooka against a broken wall. He has fired it 4 times in combat. 2 hits. 1 kill. He doesn't feel brave anymore. He feels methodical. The Panzer noses forward, turret scanning left, then right. Infantry follows, but thinly, exhausted, barely keeping pace. Brooks watches the angle. 30 yards. 25. The tank turns slightly to avoid debris. Its side armor comes into view. Brooks fires. The rocket hits just beneath the turret bustle. The shaped charge does what it has done hundreds of times across Europe, focuses explosive force into a needle of molten metal that slices through armor, flesh, and hope in the same instant. Inside the Panzer, Keller feels heat blossom behind his eyes. Then nothing. The tank burns quietly, almost respectfully, smoke drifting upward as if the machine itself understands the war is ending. By now, there is no confusion in German reports. No disbelief. No mockery. Captured officers speak openly during interrogations. We knew the bazooka, one says flatly. We feared it, especially in cities, especially in forests. Another adds, the tank stopped being king when the infantry stopped running. In the ruins of Cologne, Berlin, Hamburg, anywhere tanks are forced into streets and rubble, the pattern repeats itself. German armor advances slowly, cautiously, surrounded by infantry that no longer has the numbers or morale to protect it. American bazooka teams wait patiently. They don't chase tanks. They let tanks come to them. The weapon that once looked like a crude pipe has become a symbol, proof that technology does not need to be elegant to be decisive. It only needs to work. Back in a shattered headquarters outside Frankfurt, a German general studies a map littered with red arrows. His voice is quiet, resigned. We built the finest armored force in the world, he says. But we forgot one thing. No one interrupts. The battlefield belongs to whoever controls the ground, and the ground belongs to the infantry. He closes the map. The war will be over soon. For the Americans, the bazooka is already giving way to something new. The M9, the M18 recoilless rifle, heavier weapons for a new kind of war. But the lesson remains etched into doctrine and memory. A single soldier, properly trained, can change the balance between steel and flesh. Private Brooks sits on the curb that evening, bazooka across his lap, watching smoke drift over the Rhine. He thinks about how afraid he was the first time he fired it, how impossible it seemed that this tube could stop a tank. He knows better now. So do the Germans. What began as laughter, dismissive, confident, absolute, ended in silence, burning armor, and crews who never saw their enemy. The bazooka did not end the age of the tank, but it ended the illusion that tanks were untouchable. And once that illusion melted, so did the Panzer myth.